Hello, welcome back to another episode. The start of You Promised. The final episode of Blackbird features a disturbing flashback to show Jimmy's nightmare. Larry wakes him up and suggests that his tales may be to blame for the nightmares. Jimmy notes that since Larry calls his admissions tales, it follows that he has misled him about committing any crimes. Jimmy begins to make fun of Larry's specifics as he tries to persuade him that he isn't lying. He asserts that despite Larry's repeated claims to the contrary, he never actually dug a grave for Jessica Roach. Jimmy disputes what Larry says about not performing the burying at the proper time. That aggravates Larry so much that he shouts at him. Jimmy pretends he still doesn't believe him. So, Larry asks him to come to the woodshop later so that he can prove his point. Later, C.O. Carter pays Jimmy a visit and attempts to persuade him to talk about the subject of his claimed informant. Carter leaves for the time being after Jimmy plays a game of chicken with him to disguise the fact that he is actually a snitch. James Keene briefly experiences a second stroke before we return to Jimmy. Vincent Gigant pays him a visit, this time to issue a hidden threat of death. James visits the woodworking shop where Larry is constructing a map while his collection of wooden bird toys surrounds him. He says that he's going to ship them to Gary and explains that each of the birds he has carved essentially represents all the people he has killed. Jimmy remembers the etchings on the paper that Larry just rolled up and realizes that it's actually a map pointing out the exact spots where Larry's victims are buried. Jimmy rots away in isolation as James heals in the hospital, pleading with him for anything that may help him sketch Larry's map before he forgets the specifics. With nothing else to do, Jimmy begins to etch the map onto the walls by biting into his fingers, drawing blood. Gary receives the map and a wooden bird in the mail from Larry. Officers Brian Miller and Lauren McCauley arrive at the Hall residence. McCauley tries to take advantage of the opportunity to move the topic indoors as Gary begins to gush about how attractive she is. Gary asks them if they have a warrant to access the property after noticing that they want to check for anything. Brian says that they don't. So, Gary says that, in that case, they're going to have the conversation outside, and he goes in to fetch water. McCauley waves to Robert, but he doesn't wave back and continues to burn whatever he's burning. Then she and Miller sit down with Gary to talk about Larry's appeal and slowly pivot the conversation into his misdeeds in an attempt to get further confirmation about Larry's case. Initially, Gary resumes his old spiel about how Larry only wants to be seen, and that's why he tells these tall tales. But he's actually innocent. Miller doesn't fool around and says that he knows that Gary knows that Larry is guilty of killing all those girls. Jimmy tries to persuade a CO within the prison that he is not rambling and that the FBI should be contacted. However, the CO reacts unfavorably and orders him to stop bringing up the FBI in conversation. Dr. Zitcherman finally saves Jimmy at the prison, and McCauley enters to express her regret for the entire incident. Jimmy, though, is only ever begging for a pen. He begins by outlining the burial locations on the map. Larry hands the package to Gary. The murder weapon Larry used to kill Jessica Roach is further revealed by Jimmy, who also claims that Larry advised him on how to fold the garments after killing Trisha Rietler. McCauley understands that that is the secret to keeping Larry in jail. The wooden toy and the map are set afire by Robert Hull. The sentence for Jimmy is reduced. Miller ultimately meets him and expresses thanks for his efforts. He regrets not finding the places where the girls are buried, but McCauley assures him that his work has ensured that Larry won't bury any more girls. Larry gets returned to prison after his appeal is denied. According to a line of text, after losing this appeal, Larry attempted suicide but failed. Jimmy is seen coming back to James and Sammy. 5 full years after Jimmy was released, Jim reportedly suffered a heart attack and died. The next scene has Gary visiting Larry in prison. Larry seems worn out and ill. He claims that he has insomnia. He claims he doesn't belong behind bars. Gary, though, claims he does. When Gary tells Larry that he should accept the fact that he is guilty of the things for which he has been accused, Larry reacts in disbelief. Jimmy seems to be back to his normal antics with women. However, as he looks out of the window and at the green patches of land, he is reminded of Larry and his horrifying stories. We learn that Larry eventually went back and forth about the murders, but the bodies were never found. He's still in jail, and Jimmy is still helping the FBI profile serial killers. Thanks for watching. Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe.